Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Wellspire, a podcast where we speak the truth many of us were never allowed to say out loud. I am your beautiful host, Obipiseibima, Priscillia, Aggokabo. And today we'll begin with a conversation that sits heavy in many hearts, childhood trauma. And today's episode is tagged Shadows of Childhood, Unpacking Trauma and the wounds we carry. Now, not just the obvious dramatic events, but the quiet, daily wounds, the ones we're taught to hide, to normalize, to pray away. Let's start here. In many households, discipline is seen as love. We're told to spare the rod and spoil the child. But what if that rod was not just a stick, but sharp words, cold silence, emotional neglect, or manipulation? Trauma is not always physical. It's anything that overwhelms a child's sense of safety and the ability to cope, especially when there is no one to help them make sense of it. In different homes, trauma often wears a cultural clothing, being told to toughen up instead of being comforted, hearing stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about, being labeled disrespectful and act for asking questions, being constantly compared to others, or worse, experiencing abuse, then being told to stay silent for the family's name. Let me take you through Randolph's story. Let me tell you about Randolph. Randolph grew up in a home where love meant fear. He was hit for laughing too loud, for asking why, for getting a B instead of an A, and there were no hugs, no, I'm proud of you, just silence and strictness. Now, Randolph is in his 30s. Randolph is respected, he is educated, and deeply anxious. He freezes around authority. He avoids conflicts. He can't say no even when he's drowning because, as a child, he learned speaking up equals punishment. Let's move towards the people pleasers. Do you always try to make everyone happy? Say yes when you want to say no? Apologize when it's not your fault? That is not just a personality trait, that is survival. And in many homes, children are not taught boundaries, they are taught obedience. You are expected to greet every adult with a smile, even when they hurt you, obey without question, never show anger, never be disrespectful, even when standing up for yourself. So, in this situation, what does a child do to stay safe, accepted, and loved? They become a people pleaser. They shrink, they scan every room, they silence their needs and start to believe their worth is tied to their usefulness. Now, this has a lingering effect. That child becomes an adult who struggles to say no, feels guilty, resting, feels anxious when someone is upset, which is supposed to be none of your business, and chooses peace over their own mental health and does not know who they are when they are not performing for approval. This kind of lifestyle is actually exhausting, and many don't even know why they are doing it. And I want you to know that awareness is the first step. That urge to please people, it didn't come from nowhere. It was your shield, it was your survival tool. But now you're no longer that child. So it's actually okay to disappoint people with excuses, anyways, with reasons, though. It's okay to say no. It's okay to take up space. And I want you to know that your worth was never meant to depend on your sacrifice. Now, this wound we carry, what hurts us as children, still lives in us as adults. It shows up as over apologizing, over avoiding vulnerability, and we tend to choose emotionally unavailable partners, parenting in fear, either repeating the cycle or overcorrecting. I want you to understand that trauma does not fade away with time. It hides, it waits until something, maybe a breakup, a job, a child of your own, or your spouse triggers the memory. So, why do we stay silent? Why don't we talk about it? Because in most cultures, family is sacred, and questioning your parents is seen as betrayal. So, we hear they did the best they could, at least you had food. Don't be ungrateful. But survival is not healing. And silence does not erase pain, it just buries it deeper. So, what is the way forward? So, where do we go from here? First, I want you to take time and name that trauma. Say what happened, say what you needed but did not get. Then, secondly, allow yourself to feel grief. Allow yourself to feel that anger, to feel that sadness, even anger at your parents. That does not make you ungrateful. It makes you honest. It makes you human. And thirdly, seek healing. Therapy where possible, seek safe friendships, read books, read journals, and broadcast spaces like Wellspire that reminds you that you are not alone. So if today's episode stirs something in you, you know that your pain is valid. You're not broken, you are not crazy, you are carrying the weight of what was never yours to carry. But now you are allowed to set it down. And thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And most of all, thank you for choosing healing even when it is hard. Join me next time on Shadows of Childhood as we explore the parenthood and how unhealed parents often raise wounded children. And until then, be gentle with yourself and remember your inner child is listening. Don't forget to like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe. Have a lovely week. Bye bye.